Hello everyone, welcome to our channel SKI Class Academy Learn to Rise. In our last video, we have seen about the basics and introduction of neural network. In continuation with that, today we will see about designing a simple neural network. And we will try making a simple and minimal neural network and which we will explain and train to identify something. A lot of neural network terms originate and make somehow more sense from a biological perspective. So let's start the session from the very top, that is biological related terms. The human brain is complex, but in general it can be divided into few basic parts and operations. Stimuli can also be internal, like a percept or an idea. Take the scenario. On seeing a donut, due to our stimuli, our brain gets processed and recognizes that it is actually a donut. Similarly, the internal percept brings the emotions and feelings which make our brain to respond accordingly. Suppose if I am really hungry and fortunately I get a donut to eat, my brain will process those emotions as information and provides the response to stimuli immediately. And all these processing happens only because of the neurons in our brain. And simply we can say that neurons are the information carriers of our brain. The neuron is the basic unit of computation in the brain. It has two layers, the gray stuff and the white stuff. White stuff are also called axons. It receives and integrates the signals from other neurons. Depending on the number of factors, it either does nothing or generates an electrical signal or an action potential, which in turn signals the other connected neurons via synapses. Neurons have specialized projections called dendrites and axons. Dendrites bring information to the cell body, and axons take information away from the cell body. Information from one neuron flows to another neuron across a synapse. The synapse contains a small gap separating the neurons. Hence, the flow of information takes place basically from one to many, as shown here. This is how the physical or a typical neural network passes the information to process the details. Dreams, memories, ideas, self regulated movement, reflexes, and everything you think or do is all generated through this process. Here we see simple muscular actions needs millions and maybe even billions of neurons firing at different rates and making connections, which in turn create different subsystems and all running in parallel and creating a biological neural network. This is, of course, both a generalization and a simplification, but now we can describe a minimal biological neural network. Here, the circles represent the neurons and the lines, connections in between them. To keep things simple at the stage, the connections represent a forward movement of information from the left to right. The first neuron is currently firing and it is shaded to indicate it. It is also given by a number 1, that is 1 when it is firing, and a 0 when it is not fired. The numbers in between neurons indicate the weight of the connections. These graphs represents a moment in time of the network. This shows a more accurate depiction that how an information is passed through connections, which was divided into three time segments from T1 to T4. Before making our neural network, we need to understand how weights affect neurons and how neurons learn. Let's start with a bunny. That is a test bunny and a classical conditioning experiment. This is bunnies, when subjected to a harmless puff of air, bunnies usually blink as like humans. Like in our previous graph, this one displays just the moment when the bunny is sensing the puff of air. We are thus encoding the puff into a Boolean value. We are now calculating if the second neuron fires or not. Based on the weight value, if the weight is 1 and the sensory neuron is firing, means we blink, and anything below 1 means we don't. Or in other words, our second neuron has a threshold value of 1. Let's introduce another element, a harmless auditory tone. Here, the only difference is that the weight is now 0, so there won't be a blinking bunny, at least not yet. So let's train our bunny to blink on command by mixing stimuli, that is the tone and the air puff. Importantly, each of these events happens at a different time epoch or moments in time. The graph would look like this. The tone does nothing, but the air puff elicits a blink response. The important thing to note here is that we are indicating this through the weights multiplied by the stimuli that is shown in the red color. From this video, we learned about how the human neural action is being mapped with artificial neural networks while we intend to design. And in our next video, we will discuss in detail about the learning rate and the training to those neurons to design a neural network. Please subscribe our channel and click bell icon for getting updates about the industry ready skills updation. Thank you for watching the video.